Hello there, everybody. Welcome along to EFL Debate. This is the League Two podcast. You can also subscribe if you enjoy our episodes to EFL Debate on YouTube and on Spotify. Delighted to be joined by my co-host, Ed Walker, an expert on all things fourth tier. Ed, coming into the last four games of the season, don't know where the time's gone. As we
tell
were
me
saying.
about it.
I know, yeah.
It was 12 games last week. What's happened? What's going on here?
But I think the Easter weekend feels big just because there's two games in a really short space of time that could make or break people's seasons.
Yeah, and I suppose it's because of where we are in the season. It feels like, I know Easter kind of rotates, never a set period each year, is it? And I suppose it comes around the season. You kind of know it's somewhere around the 40 mark. This feels really late in. Like literally we come out of Easter and near enough everyone has got two games left.
Yeah.
So some might already be down, some might already be up at that point. It's not just the case in League Two, but other leagues as well, of course. So yeah, hugely significant couple of games, and I'm quite pleased there's still quite a number, certainly in League Two at least, that don't feel like complete duds. I think we've got maybe one or two on this Friday, for instance, that are basically done. Two mid-table sides that are not going anywhere. The rest have all either got something to play for, whether that's the top end or the bottom. Because as we know, Gab, this promotion race is basically, well, Port Vale want to go up. I'm not sure if anyone else actually wants to join them at the moment, the way it's feeling.
It is absolutely mental. I feel like we've said this for a long time. If we look at the top six, so the teams that are realistically in the mix for automatic, I mean Grimsby are 6 points off, but let's say there's six teams. Only two of them have recorded back-to-back wins in any of their last six games, and one of those is Notts County, who you wouldn't say are necessarily an informed side either. So really, Port Vale are the only team that's in form. And so it's just it's crazy. And I look at a side like Doncaster Red, who have unbeaten in 7, lost 1 in 11. Okay, they're not winning loads of games, but the fact that they're not losing them probably helps
one of the
them.
It's one of the better records, isn't it? And you naturally think you're at the top end. You expect to see teams with lots of wins, lots of green in their list. But actually, truthfully, you can go unbeaten, just have like avoid as many defeats and string maybe a couple of wins here and there. You're actually one of the better front runners at the minute. Vale have got to the top because, as you say, 6 wins in 7. They're absolutely flying at the minute. But I feel like it's a real reflection, really, that we're sat here now. Everyone's got 4 games left in that top end. You normally find in the last 2 League Two seasons, the runaway guys got like towards 90 or some get 80, get promotion. Feels like you could go up with less than 80 points this year. Just with the way this lot are feeling at the minute, it's a testament to how tight this League Two season's been, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, it's only 80 points if Doncaster or Walsall get 8 points from their last 4 games. I mean, Doncaster could do that. Walsall maybe with their fixtures, but
do we trust Walsall? That's the problem.
Well, exactly. So it shows that it could be you could be looking at a third place team on 78 points or 79.
It reminds me a bit of I could talk back to when Burton were there. I feel like I seem to remember. I think it was 12-13. I think Port Vale went up in third with 76 or 78. It was kind of low 70s number.
Was that
there have been
was that the year you beat them? They beat you 7-2.
Yes, that was Tom Pope's year. If you remember that, that's the one that sadly comes to mind. But I do remember
they had Ashley Vincent and Jennison Murray Williams.
Yeah, it was a good Port Vale team. But I remember they came up with high 70s, so it can happen, can be done.
Yeah, Mickey Adams, I think, got them up, didn't he? Yeah, so curious. I mean, I think, Port Vale, I'm very confident go up. I think that 4-point cushion is huge given the propensity of the teams below them to drop points. So Port Vale, all credit to them. They found themselves a great formula for the last quarter of the season. And yeah, well done to Darren Moore. I've got to give him his due for that. But again, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to think of it. I mean,
everyone keeps falling over each other. I think last night's a perfect reflection of it, Gab. Really, we've had a number of these. You've got Salford against Doncaster, game in hand for both, big opportunity for both. Salford going to playoffs, Doncaster going to the top 3. Doncaster go second. In fact, if they win, 1-1 draw. Everyone just keeps, so many of these teams just keep missing out on these game in hand opportunities that are supposedly going to give them the advantage, and we're just back where we were. And I mean, Walsall, we've had for a while wondering how are they still first. We're now saying how are they still third. They've been there for the taking for ages. They've won 2 of the last 17. Like, come on, they are there. So, I don't know. Everyone seconds them down is not really fully convincing me. You'd think everyone in that promotion race is in really top mood, really top form. And the truth is, Port Vale basically are the one that is, and everyone else is kind of just falling over each other to join them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see Walsall against Harrogate on Good Friday because as much as their form has been abysmal since January relative to their position, they do have an opportunity there to possibly take advantage of any slip-ups. So, because Doncaster Rovers are going to Tranmere, which is going to be a tough game.
Bradford playing Notts County the night before.
Yep. Yeah, so one of those is gonna drop points. So there could be an opportunity for Walsall to put themselves to re-establish a lead. But again, it's hard to really trust them with 2 wins in 17. But football's mad; it's changeable, isn't it?
It'd be about time if they won a game again. They could really do. They really need to get their act together for these last 4 because there's so little left now to do. And I'm fascinated they're still sat top of the goals scored pile.
Yeah,
72, and I think the next best is sort of low 60s. Or I might actually be Swindon, I think, with 66. So, it's remarkable, really, to think that basically all of this is done by how good they were from sort of the middle of January up to that point. And then since then, it's just really nosedived, and just the lead was so good that they're able to still hold this position they've got now, really.
Yeah, I think there's question marks over everyone other than Port Vale, basically. You could pick holes in teams, which makes it for a delightful last 4 games. I mean, in terms of the playoff scramble, Grimsby will be disappointed to have dropped 2 points late on at Harrogate, because not only would it have given them a 3-point lead over Colchester, who themselves won 2-0 at Newport, but also it would have put them 4 points off the automatics and in that conversation. I think with that result, the automatics is possibly a bit of a jump. But I think they have put themselves in a good position for the top 7 with 10 points from the last 5.
Yeah, Grimsby are in quite a nice nick. It's just pleasing because I can't remember last time Grimsby actually probably looked at the top end of this division. It feels like I think it's about 20 years since they've had to finish this high up. We've kind of got used to the idea of Grimsby flirting between being a 4th tier outfit and having some spells in the 5th tier. So to actually see them make a genuine strong assault in League One has been really, really pleasing this year, definitely. In terms of that playoff race, Gab, I actually am kind of looking at 6th to 8th as the 3.
Okay.
Notts
so you think Notts County could drop out?
Yeah, Notts are a strange one. I agree. You said they won 2 of the last ones, but you catch them last Friday night against Salford, really below par. Their record with top end sides is not convincing at all. There's something about it. They can manage to blow low ranked sides away, but these topper end opposition do seem to be a problem for them, despite the individuals they've got. To the point, I'm now looking at Notts and saying, I'd almost want to forget you. You might still mathematically be in the automatic race, but the truth is you could end up being pipped at the minute because both Grimsby and Colchester look like they could get past you. They're right within touching distance.
Yeah, that's true. I think for Notts County, they've got Cheltenham at home and Harrogate away in third last and second to last games, respectively. So I think if they win those games, they get to 74 points. And that would, of course, leave Colchester needing 9 points from their last 4 games in order to catch Notts County.
Yes.
And I mean, just having a look at Colchester's fixtures
we are kind of banking on, though, Gab, that this idea that they're playing the ones are basically the beach teams and saying they're not going to play. I'm fully convinced Cheltenham are still going to play under Michael Flynn. Look what they just did at Crewe recently. I still think they're going to try and make it horrible for them, and I'd be a bit concerned about that Cheltenham one, particularly if I'm not, even though you've still got Bradford on the immediate horizon even before that.
Yeah, I think so. Just wondering. I think those would be the 2 more favourable fixtures.
Yeah,
and then
definitely.
it's whether Notts County can maybe grab something at Bradford, who aren't in the best of form, or Doncaster possibly on the final.
Bradford are going to be out Richie Smallwood tomorrow, so that'll be intriguing because it's been a long time since he's not been in the midfield. So
Bradford, I mean, they've had to juggle things without their best players a lot this season, haven't they? And sometimes it's produced mixed results. Sometimes they've reacted really well, and sometimes it's hurt them a bit more. So I'd be very curious to see how Bradford City can finish the season, because I think if they can react to some of those absentees as well as they did when Andy Cook left, Callum Kavanagh's form is definitely something for them to take forward, because he was outstanding in that 5-4 loss at Swindon and the carnage of that.
Well, that just seems very Bradford, that Swindon game. That you have a Holloway side that's near enough done with its season anyway. It can still just almost kind of self-implode to a certain degree. I mean, I think Callum Kavanagh basically got a kind of poacher's hat trick and still ends up on the losing side.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
really feel the pain through him with that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Callum Kavanagh and the potential that he's shown so far. So, intrigued to see what happens there. Are we drawing the line at 8th in terms of the playoffs? Because Chesterfield are 4 points off. I mean, if they win and Grimsby loses,
Chesterfield are. I'm not going to draw a line just under them yet. I kind of want to put it halfway through the line with Chesterfield. I think they're the what if of this season, Gab, Chesterfield, because they have had to combat with a very difficult, notable injury list. They've had to chop and change at the back, in midfield, up top. They haven't always had their key personnel around. And yet, despite that, they're sat 9th. Multiple times this season, you've seen them win games, and they've looked phenomenal when they win those games. They've taken some top teams apart this year. And yet, they just had lacked that little bit of consistency in certain areas, like that Thorne loss to Tranmere is a damning one. Even if it's in the patch of a good bit of form, it's that example. And I still think I look at Chesterfield a little bit and think if he'd had everyone, Paul Cook had had everyone from the start, what could they actually have done this year?
I think
they're just about in that playoff race now. I still think as we go, it depends. I think certainly on getting this win of Friday where they are against. It's still off my head. They're at AFC Wimbledon. That's a potential for them to cause an upset again. Just think they could do that. So if they can keep themselves in the running over Easter, maybe they might find themselves just behind Colchester, for instance, as the final weeks of the season rolls around.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if Chesterfield had their best 11 fit, fresh and available for the rest of the season, including keeping Dylan Marcando for the second half of the campaign, I think they probably get automatics in the context of this automatic promotion race and the way that it's played out. So that's probably the one thing that could give them some optimism for next year, that they're not a million miles off, and maybe with those, if they can have get things right on the sports science side and avoid a few of those injuries, then I think they could be one to watch. Got
to keep hold of Armando Dobra too while you're at it, though, because he's a star individual for them.
Oh, 100%. He's been lovely to watch this season, Armando Dobra. In terms of that relegation dogfight, Harrogate with 1 defeat in 5 have definitely solidified things, and just ticking over points has been really valuable for them, while Morecambe and Carlisle have both gained back-to-back wins within the last 4 games, albeit losing the other 2 in that sequence. But again, 6-point gap between Carlisle in 23rd and Accrington Stanley in 22nd. But crucially, Carlisle go to Accrington Stanley on Easter Monday. I mean, what a huge game that is.
Yeah, we had 2 huge games last weekend, didn't we? With Tranmere playing Accrington and Carlisle playing Morecambe. Or was it Morecambe playing Carlisle, actually? And Carlisle have kind of just given themselves this last-minute little kick where they wondered, could we?
Yeah.
A little bit. I know they've got to play Port Vale at home.
By the way, Ed, I'd written Carlisle off.
I'd got very close to doing the same, to be fair.
Yeah, because it was they had a weird situation where in March, was it Doncaster game where they lost and they had a weird thing where they didn't have a shot on target, or they had one shot or something.
Just got absolutely pummeled, didn't they? I seem to remember.
Yeah, there was definitely one game like that you're thinking, oh my God, why are you doing that? Chesterfield, it might have been actually. And that definitely worries me in terms of what, in terms of, but they reacted so well with those victories over Newport County and Morecambe, and they've given themselves a bit of a sniff.
And the Newport one's quite fascinating because that's from 2-0 down. Just a kind of stunning effect by Bobby Cameron, unable to turn that around. And I don't know, I'm thinking, I'm carrying a little bit of hope of Carlisle as it keeps going. I think Matthew Dennis is quite integral. I'm quite pleased to see Georgie Kelly performing a little bit recently, because we've seen him do some notable things yet in the season at a higher level. I mean, what was it, 3 years ago he scored at Gillingham and sent Rotherham up?
Yeah.
Feels like a while since we've seen that. So nice to see him in the mix of them as well. I kind of thought they'd have Callum Guy integral to their midfield, and actually he's not really been starting many games recently. Seeing Sean Lassier and Callum Whelan in there instead, so that's quite pleasing. They've had to adapt a little bit to right back, but Jack Ellis, I think, had a really good time against Morecambe, stepping in for Archie Davis. So pleasing. And the Accrington game's just huge. If they can keep it going the way, I think Accrington are at Salford this Friday. So we might well keep things as we are with that 6-point gap. And then that game on Monday just becomes absolutely enormous.
Yeah, I mean, I think Accrington Stanley might be deflated because that 3-goal lead against Tranmere Rovers, where if they'd won that game, they'd have been up to 45 points and they'd have an 8-point cushion, and some of the pressure off there'd be a bit of pressure taken off the Easter weekend.
I would love to know the feeling of that dressing room after that, because you've not only blown a 3-goal lead, you conceded 3 worldies. You would think when you see when Tranmere come back level and you think, okay, we probably scored, especially that 90+11 equaliser, you're imagining just a really scrappy tap in. No, it's just an absolute belter from Amari Patrick from range. So, yeah, I really would love to have a bit of fly on the wall for that Accrington team when they came back into the ground after that one.
Yeah, they certainly looked very dejected because it kept them within reach for Carlisle United. I mean, I wanted to go back to Colchester because they're a team that's really impressed me since around November when they were, I think, 21st, and they'd struggled to get some wins on the board, but the performances hadn't been too far off. They've actually produced some really good form. And again, I mean, they're another team where, if they'd been able to find that sort of formula from the start of the season, they'd probably be in the automatic promotion mix. So what a job Danny Cowley's done.
Yeah, it's a bit interesting with Colchester because now they've kind of sucked themselves into the battle. They seem to have got that inconsistency that everyone else has got because they had this electric thorn that was flying up the table. They flew into the top 7 places looking really good. And then they just got slapped by Bradford, it felt like, and that knocked their unbeaten run. And they've kind of gone back to being a bit more inconsistent from that point on, like the rest of the teams in this playoff and promotion battle. So I'm feeling still largely quite positive about Colchester United at the moment. I think you have to with the general form that they've got. I still look at someone like a Warren Edwards and think he's just such an integral part of this team.
He's just a live wire, isn't he? Yeah, just such an exciting player to watch, for sure. So, I mean, have you sort of made any changes to your state of mind? Because it's League Two. It's League Two. We always change our thinking. I mean, I think we'll agree that Port Vale are.
Yeah.
They're not home and hosed, but they've put themselves in a fantastic position. So the question is, does the top 3 stay as it is? Is there the worry with Walsall, the form, and that maybe Doncaster Rovers might tick themselves over the line? But will Bradford City get over the line as well?
It all points to Walsall dropping out, doesn't it? Really, just with the general feel around the place. They're very much right now. They're literally in there because they got a 6 better goal difference. They're literally hanging on to that last string. You just have so little faith in them actually finding the wins, even if some of their fixtures look like winnable opportunities. I would be inclined right now, if you ask me, to stick with Port Vale, stick with Bradford to just about secure it, and say Doncaster pit Walsall. I still wonder a little bit about Wimbledon when they can be quite good, but I think they're a bit similar to Notts, I suppose, where it's just that lack of consistency that mounts them a serious challenge.
The argument in favour of Walsall, however, would be the fixtures, because Doncaster are going to Tranmere on Good Friday, who could mathematically rubber stamp survival with a win. So that's going to be a tough game. They're hosting Colchester United, who are an informed playoff candidate, arguably one of the toughest sides to face right now on form. They've got Bradford City at home in a automatic promotion 6-pointer, and they've got Notts County away, who could be in the mix for autos on that stage because they're only 4 points off at the moment. They could be playing to secure a playoff spot. So that is a really tough run of games. Whereas you look at Walsall, okay, they're very cold at the moment in terms of form, but they've got Harrogate at home. I think you would have to make Walsall favourites to win that.
Yeah, but Harrogate are weird. That's the exact kind of game they just smash and grab a 1-0 in. They're annoying, Harrogate. They can't. Who was it who I saw say they can't keep getting away with it, but Harrogate just somehow seem to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've got, with Harrogate Town, they've got an amazing goalkeeper in James Belcher, one of the best shot stoppers in the league, and they've got 2 of the best centre backs, or certainly better centre backs in the league, in Anthony O'Connor and Jasper Moon. And I don't think the rest of Harrogate Town's team is actually that great, but they're able to absorb pressure really well because of that.
I think I would give credit to their midfield too, Bryn Morris and Ben Fox. You've got a pair in there that I think can control things quite well, certainly provide a lot of energy in there. There's also the added factor that those two just can whack one from 30 yards in the corners. It's particularly how they beat Tranmere a little while ago, so that's something to be aware of. And the new lad, Thomas Cousins, who's recently been playing up top, I kind of like a little bit of a look at him. I'd like to see a bit more of him going forwards.
Okay, yeah. So they've got a bit of raw talent there and a couple of solid midfielders. So I take your point there. I think if Walsall can be 7 out of 10 against Harrogate, I think they win that game personally. I think I'm still a massive question mark over Walsall off the back of that performance against Barrow. But I think they've got to start Levi Amanci as well. I don't think Harrison and Matt works. I think Amanci with that threat and directness, and George Hall as well. He's recently come back to fitness, so I think that they missed Nathan Asimwe last time out. Hopefully he's available for them. So there's enough there that I would still think a couple of tweaks and Walsall will have enough to beat somebody like Harrogate. Whereas, and again, it's just, you'd make them favourites to win at Newport, probably. You would make them favourites to beat Accrington Stanley. So, yes, they are woefully out of form relative to their position, but I still think that in terms of the fixtures, that probably is what favours them.
It's a fair argument. I just can't trust them right now.
Yeah, I get that as well.
That's the problem. That's the issue for me.
Carlisle and Morecambe, bottom two, do you think?
Yeah, Carlisle have kind of made you wonder with his last couple, haven't they? I think, if I'm right, Morecambe can actually go on Friday. I think they need to lose their game, and Accrington and Tranmere both need to win theirs, and then there's a gap that becomes, I think, too big at that point. I think it becomes 10 points with 3 to go, so that'll be it for them.
Yeah. So I mean,
Morecambe's a real shame. I will criticise Carlisle for their relegation, deservedly so, because it's just been a disaster of a campaign. I feel like Morecambe have really given this a good shot. Considering all the difficulties they've had, and we recognised immediately from the start of the season with that income of transfers, you had to look at it and thought, this club's going to try and just hold their place in the division as well as they can. And with Derek Adams there, you kind of hoped they could, because it just felt like such a beautiful fit. And there's been some notable home games, I think, in particular, where they've really given themselves a go, but ultimately too many defeats. And it's painful how many have been, of course, by narrow margins, particularly earlier in the season. But just too much to do. Well, that Carlisle one last weekend is the killer for me, Gab. Just
I think it's 15 games they've lost by a single goal this season. I mean, you draw 7 of them. You're talking about being on level on points with Accrington Stanley, which on performance you could argue that's possibly where they've deserved to be, but also on quality, it's hard. They've not been able to take their chances often enough, other than brief moments where Andy Dallas looked like he might find form. They had a 40.
Lee Angle's hit a little bit.
Lee Angle, yeah, exactly. So there's been brief moments, but ultimately they've been found wanting. Well, Ed, we've got to make it a shorter one this week because the office is closing at 7:30, so I've got to skedaddle. But thanks so much for joining us to chat about League Two. Everyone go and subscribe to EFL Debate on YouTube and on Spotify, and we'll see you again for another League Two podcast after the Easter weekend.